Hello and welcome back to the Visual Supercharge online course. Hi, David.
Good morning and good evening, Bart.
David, I'm so excited for this clip because we're going to focus on a crucial situation, the problem solving.
That's right. This is where it all comes together. Everything that we've been talking about, digital visual literacy and the focus on visualization, it all gets blended here, whether we're talking about in small groups or large groups, which is our next segment. So yes.
Yeah, we are covering 6 situations in this clip. This is what we're going to do. We're going to speak about small group problem solving, and then we'll show you how to scale the efforts to larger groups on, let's say, webinars or seminars, right? Workshops.
Participatory workshops,
Yeah.
like we showed in our very first clip, where there were over 100 people there, and they were working for 5 days on a huge, almost year-long adoption process that affected everyone in the organization.
Yeah.
So
David, let me ask you, what is the unseen challenge of problem solving to start with?
Well, I think we have several. If I pull up kind of a mentor to me, a very famous business thought leader named W. Edwards Deming, which many people have heard of, but he wasn't the business leader like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Brin and Page, but he affected business all over the globe for the second half of the 20th century. And what he did was he gave people a way to see continual improvement. So if you've ever taken a continual improvement course of any kind, you'll probably know the name Deming. And for Deming, the real challenge was being able to take a big enough step backwards to question your presumptions and your assumptions and all your conditioning, and to take the best possible approach rationally and logically. And that means taking in all the different, points of view, and also to look very, very closely at little teeny tiny changes. So taking that big step back is a really hard thing to do for a lot of people. And what kind of goes hand in hand with that is being able to see so much of our really complex, invisible reality today. When I say reality, I'm kind of putting that in quotes because every one of us is holding a slightly different view of reality, right? It's kind of landing on what part of reality are we going to talk about here. And there you go. If we just take a look for a minute at why it's kind of an invisible reality that we're dealing with, it's because, parts of it are hidden from our view.
Yeah.
We just can't see them, right? And there's so much that's just too complex.
Right. Or it might be just there are too many things to take in, right?
Right. Or it's moving too fast and they're changing.
Or some things are just too small for us to take in.
Right. Right. And all around us, affecting us all the time, are these forces that we don't necessarily see, but they're having an impact. And so, like competition and the marketplace is a force. We see evidences of it, but we don't necessarily see anywhere close to all the evidence, right? All the human emotions that we have to deal with, that's a force. The thinking processes that are going on, all the politics in companies. I mean, there's just like forces everywhere. So if we can learn to model them it's going to give us a clearer, better picture of
Right. Mhm.
all the different elements that are contributing to this unseen reality.
So what you're saying is that we can help ourselves by employing visuals to the job, right? Because the default mode of communication is primarily verbal.
Yeah. In fact, why don't we make a visual out of this so people can really see what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
So if we all rely on conceptualization, which is, words, right? And words, if we look at communication, which is part of everything we do, it's part of all of our interaction, and we're talking to ourselves as well. So if we look at wanting to increase our results over time, we're going to have to do something on the scale of communication, which enables us to create better results.
Yeah.
And what this idea here is that if we're too stuck on conceptualization, which is verbal, but we shift, we move slowly to where we do more with pictures of all the different kinds, right? Our results are going to go up dramatically by doing both of those things, because there's a part of our brain that is simply automatic in how we describe things, how we look at things. And we want to move from that automatic way to a more conscientious and disciplined way. And you were talking earlier about, doesn't that require some courage, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is it does, because it takes that little extra courage to say, let me show you a picture. And it also takes time to prepare those pictures.
Right.
People have to exhibit some patience while you or I pull out the pictures.
Yes, and we'll take the courage to visualize our approach to problem solving. But before we do that, let's just emphasize one important thing, that pictures are kind of like windows to understand the reality as it is. And it might be static reality out there outside of our window, like here's the garden, right?
Right.
Nothing happens if you close your eyes, right? But on the scale of things, there might be situations where closing your eyes, you'll miss on things outside of this train window, for example.
It's not a matter of survival.
It's not a matter of survival. But in this illustration here, it actually is. So this is kind of like a scale to me, how pictures increase in importance, the way I see it.
Yes. And so in this last picture, in picture number 3, what it shows so dramatically, right, is that the pilots, and therefore everyone who's on the plane, right, are relying on the instrumentation, right, which makes that picture that much more instrument. So we need those gauges, right? We need those gauges. We need those charts. We need all the tools we have of making things that are going too fast, or they're too full, right? There's too much coming at us. It's all that instrumentation, or in some cases like spreadsheets or models or diagrams, to make it more useful, to make it so that we can react more clearly.
Especially in a group setting, when we're trying to make sense of things, when we're trying to make sense of new situations. I remember the question that you asked the other day. It's in one of our clips. And the question is quite crucial. What does that look like to you, right?
Yeah, right. And to me, if you're practicing DVL at a really high level, you're asking this question all the time.
All the time.
You're right. It's constantly coming up, and you don't have to ask it with those same 7 words every time. You might ask, well, show me that in comparison to something else. Or can you put that into a timeline? Or can you, if that's the middle ground, what's the more basic ground, or what's the more complicated ground? So it's the tool, which is the question, which is the visual, is designed to help us think more clearly and then, therefore, to be able to respond with a sort of a greater resourcefulness, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned, David, taking the courage to visualize, right? You remember the model that we drew the other day?
Right.
Let me just bring it up. Here's the recording of what we did together. That's a session where we discussed the nuances and challenges of problem solving. And we spoke about 4 stages, and we exchanged some visuals to clarify it, right?
Yeah, this is pretty much a universally applicable model for any kind of problem solving. It bears saying, Bart, even though it's just really basic, that even though we're using the term problem solving, that can apply to any challenge. I mean, routine, daily relationship communication challenges or big, entrepreneurial opportunities, things that are long-term, things that are short-term. We're using it in the really most general sense.